supervisor here. I've been a therapist for a few years now. In along that practice or whatever, you can go and specialize in certain fields. They're like CHTs or certified hand therapist. I happen to be a specialist in assistive technology or assistive technology practitioner, what it's actually changed to professional now. Work here at the VA. I kind of want to be able to cover some quick things for you. We're bringing on the polytrauma system of care. TBIs are, basically for your population, dementia, cognition, different things like that we might be able to look at together. It's just important to know the team that you're working with, the diagnosis, the evaluation as far as your client factors. I'm going to kind of hit that a little bit. And then what the true definition of assistive technology is, how we focus on the possible future of assistive technology. Some neat things are really on their way, so that's nice. This talk was developed for the TBI team, but can actually look at different, symptoms as well, or diagnoses as well. We see a lot of PTSD and TBIs over here, and then we have a mixed population. Knowing what each role member plays on the team is highly important. Okay? Knowing what your tools are, knowing what your reflex hammer does is just incredible. Okay? So knowing your tools. There's a new kind of approach they're looking at, and it's actually what they're calling P3 and P4. It's the poly symptoms. So a P3 would be post-concussive, or what they're saying TBI, PTSD, and pain groups. We're kind of seeing this group morph out of this moderate to severe TBI at time of injury, and now they're receiving treatment here, so we're kind of seeing this picture a lot. And they're kind of a morphing group. They're not just a pure TBI. They come in complaining of like even a musculoskeletal, my wrist hurts. And then during your evaluation you find out this, okay? The quad group, what we're going to get here is what they're talking about, polysubstance abuse actually added into this group. They're actually trying to self-medicate themselves now. Because they don't fully understand the pain, the TBI or the percussion, and then the PTSD. As a basic, what we really try to do is stick to a program once we do our evaluation, and we think about identifying the diagnosis, finding out where we're at, and I'll explain that a little bit more for you. We start with skills, patterns, and functions, and there's a great book out, I don't know if you've seen it out there, it's the TBI, and it actually, chapter 49 in that book, it describes therapy a little bit for these guys and what they're finding out. That traditional therapy may or may not, they don't really have the evidence base behind that, but they have found certain items that work, and that's like constraint therapy, and mandating that they actually work with their affected body parts or limbs, okay? So we also have found supportive documentation as far as repetitive and rhythmic learning, doing cognition, actually using a metronome, I guess it's called, for that. So we talk about that and having that go through. So in this process, you say, what is occupational therapy? How does an occupational therapist, why can't I just pick a piece of device and give it to them? Why would an occupational therapist be important? We actually have what is called a practice framework that we go through when we look at all these things, the evaluation process, and this is someplace where assistive technology may wind up right here, like this line, assistive technology. This is just a part of what I do when I'm doing my evaluation. So you have a bigger scope of when you send somebody over, I'm not going to just give them a piece of equipment. I'm going to go through and evaluate a lot of things. You say, well, what am I evaluating? So I'm going to explain that just a little bit more. What I get more than anything else is I'll see in like an $8,000 ODCOM device, a communication device that is never used. Some of these pieces are very, very expensive, and they're not really used ever. So sometimes I can go to houses and find pieces of equipment that are there that cost, the provider costs you a lot of time in prescribing these things, and they're never used. So I hope to reduce some of that. So I go back to the World Health Organization, and this was really, really nice. I hope you're very familiar with this. I'm sure you are, right? The International Classification and Function. Look at all these things when you're looking at a piece of equipment, or what could they are, or send it to me and I'll look at these things for you. I've got to look at how they look in society. Social barriers. Some people just want to, God, that makes me look uncool. I don't want to use this big old screen in front of me. That's just not nice. So that's kind of a nutshell of what I do here in this area here. I kind of look at everything: their house, their vehicle, how they're getting back and forth to work, what is their occupation, everything. Okay, and then I come up with, all right, where are they at as far as their ability or their motivation? Are they motivated to use this? And I'll explain this a little bit. This is the abilities part here, and this is the functional part here. We actually bring them in the clinic and we have them work with that device and hopefully get a successful outcome. So we all know that performance equals ability times motivation. Motivation is the behavioral component of it. If you were just looking at physical therapy, you'd look at physical therapy as far as the ability is concerned. When you start adding in occupational therapy, you look at the behavioral aspect of it, the motivation, and that's what I try to do. I try to make sure that this, big communication device is going to go well with a 23-year-old who's trying to go out for the evening. Okay? That's huge. And that way, if you have the right motivation, you've had the right piece of ability and adaptive equipment, if they need it, you'll get performance. You'll get a good, successful outcome. So what is assistive technology? Pretty much it's giving them a piece that otherwise they could not complete that function. Okay? They have all different types of devices out there. There's a huge market of please try this, please try that. But it does give them the ability to complete. I've had guys that have been in their house for years and go there and give them the right chair and the right lift device, and they're going for the ride for the first time in 3 years. So that's kind of a nice thing. Give them back some of their independence. Basically, assistive technology, when you look at assistive technology, you say, what is assistive technology? Where does durable medical equipment fit in there? Where does, telecare with software? All that is assistive technology. A pen can be assistive technology, okay? And then adapting that pen, okay, can really, really help. We haven't really talked too much about visual impairments. There's a huge movement in that area, okay? These are just categories of assistive technology, communication days, that when you're talking to a therapist or you're prescribing something, this might be the area that you're actually looking for. Environmental aids, that I'll go out to the house and do a home visit and check everything out, make sure everything's adapted or accessible. Mobility, prosthetics, orthotics, I don't know if anybody saw 60 Minutes the other night. Did anybody see 60 Minutes the other night? The bionic arm. The same gentleman that did a lot of the devices as far as like the iBot chair and stuff like that. He's developed a robotic arm now. Okay, all right. I think it's DKPA or something. Vocabulary. When you're talking and you hear someone talking about augmentative versus alternative drive control. Augmentative, usually low vision, large. Alternative, a different way to access that device. Man, there's a ton of laws out there to help you because you won't always be practicing on the inside. There are laws out there, there are programs out there that will help you get these pieces funded. Do you remember that $1 you used to pay on your phone bill to help the blind get their TD? Okay. That's opened up now to all different types of assistive technologies. You can actually tap into that market now. It's less than a one-page form, name, date, and stuff like that, what the device is going to be used for. Really, really quick. And that will purchase computers, all different types of things, low vision. So these laws are to help you, and there's a lot of them. But in general, it's the ADA, reasonable accommodation, all different things like that. And for kids too as well. So do you remember that ICF, the world classifications? I'm going to kind of look into different technologies. The big scope of information here, keep it simple. I'm going to show you the high end because you don't really need to see a paper with a note on it, you know, here, do this, okay? And some of the things that we're actually learning from doing some of these adaptions is that they're learning, they're increasing in their cognition. They're researching PDAs right now, and they're finding out that people are having better memory, recall with these devices because they're focused, it's intrinsic. They want to know it. An iPhone is just incredible. They're into it, they're intrinsic, they're learning, you know, it's growing and growing. So having some of these ideas, if you have a meeting, having, you know, something pop up on your desk, it's time to go. You know, it's a cue, it's a reminder to send them off, you know. These are environmental lightings. You can actually code because the acuity of blue versus gold in your vision. You can actually bring in different things. This is actually a computer system here that is a scheduler for the coming in. This is my events for the day. You just tap the screen and what am I supposed to do today? Just different memory cues to help them through. And different, you know, calculators, all different types of things. Mental functions, as far as knowing states and consciousness, there are all different types of GPS systems that are out there. iPhone, once again, I'll go back to that. GPS is becoming, TomToms, the navigators on your vehicle, are becoming universal designs. Do you understand that? They're trying to make these assistive technologies that were to help the handicapped universal. So it's more socially accepted to have these items, okay? Which really is nice. So this is called a wayfinder system, and we're in the process of building an 86,000 square foot building, the polytrauma system of care. One of the ideas I was thinking would be great is if you came through the front door and you got a little, like you go to a restaurant, you get this little buzzer thing or whatever, and you hold on to that. And as you walk through the building, it will tell you which way to go through to your doctor's appointment or where you're supposed to check in. Because when you're pulling in a large population of people with cognitive issues or problems or something like that, you want to be able to provide these wayfinding things so they're not so stressed by the time they get to see you. I oftenly find people in the corridor coming up from ECTC, where's prosthetics? You know, where do I go from here? It's just, signage is so confusing to them. It's just, I have a hard time sometimes getting around. But wayfinding devices are coming. They're starting to put them out on the market now. You'll find them pretty much as reverse, you know, type little black domes that project and you kind of guide on through. So you'll hear this. This is when you ask for a communication device. They're called AAC devices, Alternative Augmentative Communication Devices. That's huge. Being able to communicate with somebody is just incredible. It also, by speech, and the speech therapist does this very well, is it helps the cognition an awful lot just by speech. It's a lot of research behind that. This device here that's out on the market now too is you can actually have it set up in the room here, and I can be giving the speech in a different language and it'll be coming out in your language. It's an infrared translator. So I can actually have it sit in someplace in the room. It doesn't have to be on the desk, and actually do it remote like this wireless system here. This is just some ideas as far as the, you know, a pen and piece of paper really works well, okay? For cognitive tasks, we want to keep it simple, single steps, and kind of work our way up to multitasking. But they have to go from skills to patterns and then function. And that's how we bring them in. We break it all down, do an activity analysis on them, and make sure that what we're giving them is part, and then find out where they're at, and then kind of gauge them through this whole process, which is really nice. So you get up in the morning. What do when you get out of bed? You have a ritual, don't you? And what happens when that ritual's broken? It throws your whole day off. Okay. So that's what we look at very closely. We look at that very closely. We want to make sure that you can get back to that ritual as fast as possible. If I can't, I'm going to adapt it to make it easier. And then so by the time you get to the hospital, it's going to be, or your job or whatever, it's going to be a little bit easier for you. You won't be so upset. Okay? Does anybody know who Dr. Prigatano is? He's huge in the TBI world. He was also saying to please use x-rays or anatomy to show these people in your beginning single group, small groups to big groups or whatever, going back to the anatomy and showing them this is where you have your cognition problem, and then stepping it forward and having them come back. He was big on that, and I really thought that was interesting. He said it helped him self-aware. Okay, I do have a cognitive problem. It gave him kind of a justification. So I do a lot of wheelchairs in the clinic here. We have all different types of wheelchairs. So let me explain the classifications that you're going to find on the outside and how wheelchairs are classified. You have group or class 1, which is your scooter or basic wheelchair, okay? Group or class 2 is a single power function wheelchair, okay? What I mean by that is you have either seat elevator, or you have tilt, or you have recline, or just the lower extremity elevation, okay? Group 3 is where you have multiple, and this is kind of a simplistic explanation, but it'll help you understand when you go to looking at a client that has multiple problems that you need tilt and recline for. We're still having a problem on the outside with justification of tilt and recline, and I'll explain that just a little bit. And then group 4 is going to be your extreme wheelchairs like the iBot, okay? Which is no longer in service anymore. They stopped making this chair. Why? In today's age, when you start going a dump in the economy, guess who gets hit? These small enterprising companies that are trying to develop this assistive technology for the masses, okay? And then funding insurance-wise will not pay for group 4, class 4 wheelchairs, which that fell into. So they lost a big part of the profit margin there. And they've got to make a profit. Well, group 5, the last group, is pediatric wheelchairs, okay? So that's kind of a neat thing. I want to show you something, what is coming, which I thought was neat. Let me go to this here. This is just a little video of what's happening now with wheelchairs. There's always been this problem of, gee, I give this guy all the independence and mobility, but then he can't take it from point A to point B without somebody else. Okay? So this is just a real quick video of where we're coming and what is actually going. I saw this last year at a national conference. And the engineers that are working, so the items are going from the research stage to market really fast now. But the question is, will insurance pay for these things? But these are really kind of neat things. So this is a robotic controlled wheelchair, and it's using infrared sensors to find itself back to the back of the vehicle and load up. Just think of the possibilities of that. They say, do you ever do power wheelchairs for the blind? And I say, yes, all the time. Because visually impaired people usually have a knowledge of their surroundings in their house. They know where they can go, but otherwise they got to crawl on their hands and knees, and that's not really appropriate. So that's kind of a neat little video. Now we can put those infrared sensors all around the house and track that wheelchair through hallways, around corners, and everything like that. That's coming. You know, that is coming, and it's coming fast. So that's what we're already thinking. The system should be released fairly soon. So I'm going to go back to this presentation. Okay, let me go back. Okay, great. Sorry about that delay. Okay, so you're saying as well, there's a lot. I give a whole separate presentation on manual wheelchairs, durable medical goods. I gave this about 2 weeks ago. And then power wheelchairs, how you would size and fit someone's seating and positioning. Your breakdown, bed sores, they're huge. What cushion to use? What type of mattress should I be using at this time? And what stage of mattress should I be using at this time? And I'll give you all that information. It's really kind of a neat thing to look at. Mobility, wow. I mean, there's just so much that's going on as far as mobility now, getting around. This Wii is once again an incredible tool. I know everybody's like shaking their head. They love it. They actually get in, they're in it. Now remember what I was saying about intrinsic motivation is the best motivation you can have. And that's what we're finding right now. When someone is really desires to do it, and it's realistic. I've had people come in and say, I want to walk, and it's just not appropriate. It's been years and years and years. So, but this really does help out, and we're finding a lot with the balance technology. And I'll go into that just a little bit more with this segue that I don't have true facts on it now, but there's some beginning evidence based on the segue, which is really kind of a neat thing too. Has anybody seen this? Okay. This is the exoskeleton being developed by the DoD in Berkeley. You can run incredible distance with this thing. You should see what it looks like today. I mean, I made this a while back. And you can carry an enormous amount of weight. They actually even have it where it's the whole body. And just like the iBot, it works on gyros. You can literally step out of the system and it freestands. And then when you want to use it, you step into it. And now you can lift, just incredible amounts of weight with this, and you can go for long miles. For a spinal cord patient, that might be kind of neat, or someone who's having weakness, that might be kind of a neat application. So I'm going to kind of keep my eye on that just a little bit longer and see how it goes. But for balance and everything like that, I mean, these new games, these new activities, these interactive devices are really, really helpful to improve balance. Sensory function, which is really kind of neat. I was telling you as well, as far as augmentative, large visual screens, people who are hearing impaired, talking watches, all different types of things. Pocket talkers, which you probably are familiar with, right? Pocket talkers. Those are kind of a general first step, think, can you hear me? When we get into perception, visual perception, that's another whole gamut of things, and I want to kind of talk about that. We're learning more and more about that, and especially with what's coming, and I'll go into that just a little bit more. Okay, we have in the VA system, we have what are called BROs that are very skilled in low vision and acuity, light sensitive, and there's a ton of adaptive equipment out there. But having someone that is specialized, trained in that field is enormous for them. You'll stop a lot of those falls with sensory. So I got this slide from my son who's just learning how to drive and has already wrecked through my garage. So it's kind of a neat device as far as an infrared that shoots down and goes bing, you're done. You're parked in a good position. For someone that is having cognitive problems who maybe let's say a husband and wife, someone who's had a stroke, but he's still able to get around and do some basic task for himself, an oven guard is really nice. Sometimes they get to cooking and they walk away from the stove. It's an infrared sensors that'll sense that, and if there's excessive heat coming off of there, it'll shut the stove down. It's just kind of a safety device. Some people who are cognitively impaired forget to turn off the shower and floods the whole house. Different types of things you can do with these type of sensors. These are all just switch devices that have been made to do a certain function. You can do enormous amounts of stuff with this. So that takes a lot of responsibility and stress off the care provider when you have these items there. And it gives them that ability to keep on doing and learning and increase intrinsic motivation. Have you guys even been on one of these yet? You gotta. I am not kidding you. I got on the Segway for the first time and I was like, oh my goodness, I don't know if I can handle this. And here I am trying to move this thing around. No, just get on there and relax and stay in one place. All right? Then get off that and stand and think about what it's doing to your balance receptors and your feet and your toes. You can still feel yourself kind of going, whoa, okay. All right, I think it's got great rehab potential because it's intrinsic motivative. They get to actually go very nice. It's not a medical device, not covered here in the VA, okay? But there are outside resources that can, and because it's not a medical device, I mean, that iBot chair was, when it first came out, I think it was right around $30,000. Since it's not a medical device, it's brought the cost way down. It's about $5,000, you know, in $5,000–6,000 range. And if you go on MetaCafe, I tried to bring it up here, but it blocked me. I can't do YouTube or anything like that. Look at the Segway. These things are incredible. We had them up and down hills, you know, and all different types of things, and they keep you very level and straight. Okay, it's really kind of lots of fun. I'd like to do the mission tour. That would be kind of nice. Someone who has arthritis in their knees, wow, they can still get out and go. And they have car carriers. They can load on the back of cars and lift up and off you go. So someone who still has, you know, knee problems or whatever, you can, and meanwhile, it'll get them out in the community and interact, you know, get them awake again and, you know, alert again. Now, would I put my, well, I did. I put my father on. So, and he did well. Boom, off he goes. He's 75, you know, so he didn't take any time at all to adapting to this thing. So it was really nice. And he's got bilateral knee problems. Wow, okay. There's a large variety of assistive technologies, and I really want to look at this one when we get a chance. This type of application in phone, because you can put all this stuff controlled by this phone from any remote location, wherever you're at. You can do everything off that one phone. Now that technology is spreading off everywhere, and which is kind of nice. You can turn on and off your oven, your hot tub. You feed your fish with an automatic feeder. For spinal cord or high-level people, it's a real kind of a neat device. With all these other ones, you got to kind of work at it, you know, to type or anything like that. But this has a direct access feature to it. So there's scanning devices that will scan through. You can voice direct them, and that's a nice application. There are scanning that you actually scan through what you want, and then you pick an item, and it goes to that item. And that's what this device does an awful lot. These are called environmental control units, or ECUs, environmental control units. You can control with this device here, which plugs into your wall. At, you know, if I want this light to come on, I can plug it in here, and it'll turn this light on and off for me. So you use the existing wire in the house to transmit the signal, which is really kind of cool. You're seeing a lot more of these GPSs that are, you know, the TomToms are really nice. But you're getting this integrated in this device here. We issue a lot of these PDAs, and the latest evidence-based research is really kind of nice. It's actually showing that it's increasing cognition levels, which is, wow, that's what I like to see. An automatic water timer saying the plants are dry, just for cognitive cues. I thought that was cool. So if you keep looking at this line of stuff, I'm slowly going through that ICF. Do you remember that, the World Health Federation? Okay, great. That's what I'm kind of going through. Just giving you some ideas. So in the end, where should I go and look at stuff? You know, start there. That's the best place, okay? This is what an ECU device will do for you in just your home environment. You can do all sorts of stuff. This is just the central processing unit which goes into the house. And nowadays it's gone crazy. There's usually infrared, ultrasound, there's radio frequency, and the X10 device, of course, which is kind of nice, which jumps off. This is just kind of an overview. I mean, if someone has a CVA and they can't change the channel anymore on their TV, you know, that's kind of stuff that you can do with this device, and you give them a little type controller unit, and then they can go off with that. Controller units are just switches, and I can have those switches go anywhere, and that's the human switch interface, and that's what I try to do best at. That's what I try to help out with. I try to match the product with the interfacing device, okay, with the human. Really kind of neat stuff. I had talked about this a little bit. Universal assistive technology, universal designs. What's coming? Well, No more computer on the desktop. Now you can just do it right here by touch. You know, remember that iPhone technology? You're able to do it kind of on your desktop now, which is really kind of neat. And you can get screens that are very large and vertical, which is cool. If you want to look at hobbies or different things like that, you can have it projected anywhere at any time. Type stuff. It's really neat. And you say, how do you do that? Well, this is on the phone already. This phone is on the market already, which is nice. The projectors, the technology today has gotten so small that you can actually carry a phone and do your presentations off like this. And that's on the market. You say, well, that's great, but wouldn't it be better if I could type? This is a projected keyboard, and then project what I'm seeing on the screen. Oops, sorry. Project what I'm seeing on the screen right there, so I have a full-blown computer in my iPhone. I just set it up, infrared typing, and I can project on a wall, monitor anywhere I want to go. It's coming. We're like real close, and this will be the technology that does that. So really kind of neat. They're making it universal, and then you can adapt these universal technologies, which are nice for everybody, for the handicapped as well. Wow, has anybody ever seen this? Do you know what DTI is? Diffusion tensor imaging. It's kind of like an MRI in a way. But now you have the capability of coloring and seeing exactly where those neuroaxons go and what fields are actually highlighting, so I can actually see the motor component, okay? Which is really kind of neat. That's amazing to me. I can see transverse, ascending, descending. Wow, that's awesome. Technologies, this is just awesome. If we can get to that point, that would be great. Hey, guess what came out from this? The latest Las Vegas electronics, they had like a conference. Brain-controlled devices. You'll be at your local store December timeframe for Christmas, which is really kind of neat. This is a really kind of, you know, tells you a little bit, but this is what you're seeing right now is just a little bar coming over the brain. And in these video games, the kids can actually control movement in their video games. And you talk about exercising your mind without speaking, without anything. 2 years ago, I was at a conference, and it was, you know, who the PVA does a lot of research funding and everything like that. A lady was sitting at a computer with like a baseball cap on, and it was typing across the street. It was typing her thoughts. That's incredible. That sort of stuff, if you have someone who has lock-in syndrome, what a device. They can still communicate with you. All right? So we're going to start seeing these brain control devices, and that'll give me the ability to adapt into something again that will allow them to switch on and control their environment, which is kind of cool. I only need one switch to drive a wheelchair, a power wheelchair. Do all the seat functions, open doors, go in. Just give me one point in that body and I'll get it done. Now, there is a gray line there, and that is we do have what are called eye gaze systems. Like fighter pilots can do that. They can actually, and they actually use the eye gaze system to do communication, but we're not quite there with that system driving a wheelchair. Okay, there are all different types of applications for this. Okay? So brain control devices along with human touch, can you imagine how fast your computing will be? No more reaching out for that mouse. Okay? Now you're just kind of thinking along and moving screens as fast as you can. Okay? This is going to be cool. This is coming soon. All right? This is already out on the market. Okay. Wow, you've heard about this for a while, haven't you? Nano computing, right? Quantum electronics. What does that actually mean? Back here in the old arcade days when computing took up a whole office building, you know? And then we got into silicon wafers. You know, the processing was faster and smaller, a lot smaller. Okay? Now we're looking into atoms. They're on the market now. Quantum computing is actually on the market now for you to buy. It makes it so small. The battery power to actually hold an atom in a state is so far less, okay? And then to actually get it to activate again and hold it in a different state is a lot less energy. So you don't have as much battery power. That's what's limiting everything right now, is battery power, okay? So, and you also actually get an extra bit. So the amount of information you can store is huge, okay? Full-blown computer. And it has visual screens that come down in front of your eyes, and you can click them up as well. So you get a full panoramic view of your video game or your video or your lecture. So you can actually, in Bluetooth technology, you can sit here and see me over at the university. You don't have to be here. You'll have the whole computing power in the park, wherever you want to go. That's really kind of cool technology. Full surround sound. Nanocomputing's, wow, this is starting to get scary, just a little bit, because it actually infuses with the biological world, okay? I don't know if you know who Dr. Fredrickson is. There's a gentleman, a doctor in spinal cord unit, and we kind of flew all over the place looking at, for these paralyzed systems and everything like that. And there was the electronic world, the Case Western, and then the biology world that was like in Miami Project, and the two met, which was really kind of neat. And they were able to stimulate with an electrical device a neuron response, okay, which is kind of cool. And take that down, I was amazed at that time to hear that information. That was great. We could potentially help spinal cord patients. But now they're getting it down to even smaller, tiny, interfacing with DNA. So what does this mean? Okay? Remember him spraying on that? Did you ever see that movie, Robots? When he got his arm injured or whatever, he was able to take a can of spray paint, nanos go on, and he's got fresh new skin, he's ready to go. Really kind of a cool thing, this being a prosthetic limb. This is the old eye limb. The new one is out on the market now, and it's always been the opposing thumb that has been the problem, okay? Because in this particular hand, you actually have to shift the thumb over to get a certain grasp or pinches to happen, okay? But now you don't have to have it, and they're getting them more and more lifelike, so you wouldn't even, and once again, it's weight. It's the weight that holds problems, but we were actually involved in a project, the Freehand, which was nice for spinal cord patients. We were able to implant the controlling device about the size of a pacemaker and run 7 target leads down to the muscles. And then they had a controlling device that looked just like a cell phone, a Motorola cell phone, flip phone that they wore. And they could actually go out and reach and grab spinal cord patients from, that normally didn't have any grasp at all, which was really kind of neat. I think Dr. Keith is still, I think he bought all the rights to that, and he's in Cleveland right now. Still an incredible technology. They were actually looking at the cochlear implant as controlling what are called bion technologies. It sends out a radio frequency, and you can just inject these bions into the muscle and get it to contract, which is kind of neat. Wow, have you seen this yet? And the androids are service robots. These are happening right now. And I don't mean like personal robots and stuff. I mean the service robots are already here. Do you know what I mean? We're actually seeing a lot of these things and helping the security agencies and everything like that take care of tasks that you really don't want to take care of. You're going to start seeing more and more, especially with the nanocomputing. That coming online, you're going to start seeing a lot of this stuff. I think it's kind of exciting. It's kind of spooky in the same way too. I don't know, but I do think it's neat, and it's going to be kind of a great frontier. So what I really wanted to know is, or make sure you knew, was the right AT device. If you want to do a wheelchair, if you want to do one of these high-tech devices, or you think the patient might benefit from something that I have mentioned or said here, make sure you have an assistive technology professional involved in that, okay? It'll save you a lot of time. Now, there are people who haven't sat for the national exam, and they know a lot, and I think that's a great way to go too. But at least make sure that they've looked at every aspect of that patient before they give them, because these devices aren't cheap. Team decision. If you do have a chance to make a team decision with the patient family and the therapist or whoever is involved in this, make sure it's a team decision, okay? Universal design. Wow, that's going to be great. That's really what the assistive technology professional is actually striving for. That's one of the reasons why you didn't see the segue go to a medical device. The cost comes way down. It's how society sees us with these adaptive devices. I mean, have you ever looked at the guy with 4 cell phones across his waist? And you're like, God, give me a break, you know? Okay? All right. Just imagine what it's like to have one of those big assistive technology devices in your face. This is huge. Intrinsic motivation. Before you get that device, make sure that patient really wants that device, not what you think is best for him, or else it's going to die on the vine. If you have the intrinsic motivation and the ability, you're going to get performance. You're going to get good outcomes. Okay? That's really nice. I think that's an important. Any questions at this time? Well, I appreciate you coming. I'm sorry it was hard to find the building because of the classroom. But these are just some key sites or AT sites that are helpful out there. There's also something called usatechguide.com. And you're saying, what kind of device can I get for, even if it's a DME, durable medical equipment device? This USA Tech Guide. It's a reviewed site, which is really nice. They go and review. Standard walkers aren't for everybody. That's, you know, they're up to 250 pounds. You need to know whether it can handle someone who's 300 pounds. Do you know what I mean? So that site really does help me out a lot. But these are just some other sites that are really helpful. The AbleData and AbleNet are huge, huge, huge resources. I think that's about it. If you had any questions I could help you out with, just let me know. My name is Richard Cherry. I'm in the Occupational Therapy Department.
Can I have your extension? I want to come and discuss patient.
Right. I'm on the travel so much. 392-0404 is my cell phone number. And I have that with me most of the times. So I'm hardly ever in my office. I'm usually doing something. So if you have any questions too, like a patient like that, I'd love to see if I can't help out and help you out. Wheelchairs seem to be the big focus right now, and can they get around mobility, point A to point B? So maybe we can make it a little bit better if they can communicate when they get there, or they can. And I usually pull in a speech therapist for the communication aspect, or I pull in somebody that can help me, you know, as well as needed. All right? All right, you're welcome.